Hi, everyone. I see numbers are increasing. That's always a good sign. Welcome. We'll be starting in a few minutes. And in the meantime, if I can check that everything is working, that technology is working, that you can see the presentation, that you can hear me okay, that you can see me okay. Can you type yes in the chat box? Okay, I see some people have raised their hands. Okay, but now I can see the chat is working. Yes, 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 fantastic. Hi, everyone. Wow, super. The chat is flying at the moment. Great. Hello from Poland. Argentina, wow. Brazil, fantastic. Spain, Peru, so far away. Barcelona, Mexico, Colombia, Germany, Serbia. Good to have so many of you and also from so many different places. Welcome, everyone. Right. Well, okay, it's 2 minutes past. I'm going to wait for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes before starting. In the meantime, in the chat, you will see at the bottom of the chat, you will see two and then a drop-down menu. You can select hosts and panelists, and you can also select everyone. If you can please select everyone so we can all benefit from your ideas, your comments. If you have any questions, because there are so many of you, maybe it's better if you use the Q&A. So we don't miss your questions and we have the opportunity to answer them. Okay, more than 500 people, 550. So I think we can start. Welcome, everyone. My name is Victoria, and I'm part of the assessment services team. I'm based in Madrid. And today with me in the chat, I've got my colleague Alex, David, Eva, and Aurélie, who will be helping me with the questions. Will be helping you as well with any problems you may experience during the session. Hopefully you won't experience any problems, but if you have problems with connection or something like that, let them know in the chat and they will try to help. And today we are going to start with the first of our sessions. There are 2 sessions on C1 Advanced, and today we are going to focus on reading and use of English and the listening paper. Before we start, a bit of housekeeping. Your microphone and camera are turned off automatically. Please, as I say, use the chat box function when you have a comment, when I will also ask for your ideas, also to answer some questions. So please use the chat. As we've seen, there are people from a wide variety of places. Some very close to me in distance, others very, very far away. But what we all have in common is that we speak English. So let's try and use English in the chat. Of course, this is a teaching and learning situation, so don't worry about making mistakes. The important thing is that we all communicate and we all understand each other. For questions, please use the Q&A, and I will get to your questions at the end of the session. Also, thank you very much for sending your questions beforehand when you registered, because as you will see, they've been very useful to help me put together the session for today and for Thursday. This session will be recorded, and the link will be shared with you in a follow-up email, which will be sent at the end of March. Okay, so it will be sent probably at the end of next week once we have completed all the series, because next week David will be delivering his session on C2 proficiency. And after that, we will send the follow-up email with the recording. I will be sharing hopefully useful resources for you. So I will be, you will see that there are a lot of QR codes on the different slides. So you can scan them and save the links, but if you don't get them all, don't worry at all, because there will be a handout at the end of the session for you to download, and there you will be able to find all the links that I have mentioned. And as I said, we are in a teaching and learning situation here, so we would like to continue learning from you. And that's why there is a survey at the end of the session, and we would be very grateful if you could share your feedback on today's session, so we can take that feedback on board and I can continue learning, so I can make presentations which are as useful as possible for everyone. Right, so I think this is all I had to share with you in terms of housekeeping. Isabel, the session will be 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay, I think we will finish around 7:15 Spanish time. Right, so what are we going to look at today? We are going to offer a very brief overview of the C1 advanced exam. If you are preparing for it, I'm sure you are familiar with it. And we will also answer some questions about recognition, which was an important topic for you based on the questions we received. We will also try to share some recommendations for reading and use of English, as well as listening, and give you some ideas in terms of resources. And then at the end of the session, we will have the Q&A. And as I said before, there will be questions coming from you throughout the presentation. Right, so let's get started. C1 Advanced, 4 papers: reading and use of English, listening, writing, and speaking. About 4 hours long. If you want to know, to find out more about the different papers, or you want to find out more about the exam, please scan this QR code, which will take you to the C1 Handbook for Teachers. This exam is available on 2 formats. In 2 formats, you can do it on paper, you can also do it on a computer. They have the same level of complexity, they have the same recognition, they are equivalent. Really, the only difference is how you actually take the exam. The speaking paper is the same, it's face-to-face in both cases. So really, it's a matter of deciding what formats you feel most comfortable with. Whatever format you choose, please make sure that you are familiar with it. There are sample papers available on our website, so please make sure that you know what to expect. And we already have the first poll, which is about the most challenging part for you. So what is the most challenging part of the C1 Advanced exam from your perspective? So is it reading and use of English, listening, writing, and speaking? And from what I can see, reading and use of English comes first, then it's writing, then listening, and then speaking. Okay. Silma, you will receive the recording in the follow-up email. Okay, so wait until the end of March and you will receive the follow-up email. Okay, so perfect. Reading and use of English came first, then writing, then listening, and then speaking. Okay, fantastic. Well, I hope today's session is useful and we try to solve most, if not all of your doubts about reading and use of English, listening as well. Writing and speaking will be the main focus of Thursday's session. Julia, the recordings of the C2 exam will be sent, the C2 proficiency session will be sent together with the rest of the sessions in the follow-up email. Okay, so wait until the end of March for that. Okay, and some ideas in the chat. Grammar is the most challenging, reading is difficult as well. Thank you for this. So yes. Okay, so let's start with reading then and use of English. But before that, let's talk first about recognition. And the first question, one of the first questions you sent us was about the recognition of the C1 Advanced exam. So C1 Advanced exam, the objective of this exam is, the objective level is C1 of the Common European Framework of Reference. So if you achieve a score between 180 and 199, you will receive a C1 certificate. Okay, you can achieve either a grade C or a grade B, but you will receive something like this. Okay. If you do very well in the exam and you get a score from 200 upwards, you will receive a C1 Advanced certificate, but showing that you achieved a C2 level. Okay, so it will be this certificate here. If for whatever reason the day of the exam you didn't show all your abilities, or you for whatever reason you didn't reach 180, you will still receive a certificate showing that you achieved a B2 level. Okay, Council of Europe level B2. So it will be this situation here. Now, in terms of the recognition, we give you a certificate in these three situations. Okay, if you achieve a C1, if you achieve a C2, or if you achieve a B2. Because we are confident that you showed ability at this level. Okay, now some institutions will only accept a C2 proficiency certificate as evidence of having demonstrated a C2 level ability. and others institutions will only accept a B2 first certificate as evidence of having a B2 level of English. So it is very important that you check before registering in one exam, that you check with your university, with your school, with the company you want to work with, or with the ministry of whatever country you want to travel to make sure that they accept the exam that you are sitting, and to make sure they accept the different possibilities, okay, the different situations. So please check that before registering to make sure that you are registering for the right exam. And of course, also consider your level of ability, because the idea is that you sit the exam that you feel most comfortable with, that is closer to your ability. Okay, so these are my recommendations really. First, check with the institution which will accept your certificates, and then of course check your level, the level you feel most comfortable with. And moving on to the number of recognition or recognizing organizations that accept our certificates, you can see that there is a vast number of organizations that accept our certificates in higher education, companies, governments, ministries, worldwide, really. And this number continues increasing because they are aware, they are familiar with the experience that this institution has, the research that we carry out to make sure that our exams are valid, are reliable, okay, and that they are really top quality. Right, so now let's start with the paper, the first paper we are going to talk about today, reading and use of English. A very brief overview, 1 hour and 30 minutes to do 8 parts with different testing objectives, reading, use of English, different also different task types, okay, looking at different aspects of reading, different aspects of use of English to make sure that we are capturing as wide a variety as possible of skills and sub-skills that are necessary at C1. Let's start with the first part, reading and use of English, part 1. I'm not going to go through all the parts because we only have 1 hour and 15 minutes to go through these 2 papers. I'm just going to focus on the parts that I think may be more challenging or maybe more interesting for you. So this is what part 1 looks like. There is a text with a number of gaps, and there are 4 options for each gap. Right, so what do you need to demonstrate in part 1? What is the objective of this part? What are we testing here? Well, you can see that we are testing a number of things: fixed phrases, collocations, idioms, phrasal verbs, prepositions, semantic precision as well. So really, the focus is on vocabulary and also on the understanding of the text. Okay, so it's not only looking at phrase or sentence level, but you also may need to have a deeper understanding of the text in order to be able to fill in the gaps. So let's look at an example here, okay, of what we mean. In the case of the first gap, we may be looking at semantic precision. That's what I think. And then, for example, in number 4, we can see an example maybe of a collocation. So how should we approach these parts of the exam? the most important thing is that first, something that maybe you don't think about when you start, you going and you start focusing on the gaps straight away. But it's important that you read the whole text and quickly, so you can get an idea what the text is about. Okay, so don't focus on the gaps yet. Just read the text to get a general idea of what it is about. Then, once you've done that, focus on each gap and read the whole sentence and maybe the paragraph. Okay, look at what comes before, what comes afterwards, and then you may decide, okay, I need to look at the sentence and I need to look at the paragraph in order to be able to answer that, to fill in that gap. Try to identify clues. Do you think you need a preposition? Maybe they are testing a strong collocation. So just start thinking about what we may be after. Then choose the option A to D. I think David would agree that maybe it is a good idea maybe not to look at the options and just try to come up with the option you think is correct without looking at the options, because at this level they may be a bit too tempting. And then when you have an idea, you can go on and look at the options. Once you have filling all the different gaps, it's important that you read the whole text again to make sure that what you've written makes sense and the text flows. Okay, so going back to the sample task. What do you think is the correct option for 1? And maybe what is the correct option for 4? I'm going to give you 1 minute for that. Okay, number 1, commodity from Karen. Julia, 1D as well. Danielle, Melanie. Okay. Some people say C as well. C, D. Okay, how about for 4? Okay. Regarded. A, 4 regarded. Okay. Yes. Okay, so number 1 is commodity. Indeed. And the number 4 is regarded. Well done. Very good. Commodity here, I think, is the one that makes more sense if we look at the definition, a substance or a product that can be traded, bought, or sold. The other 3 don't really make sense. They don't really, the semantic precision, the nuances are not correct in this context. And then regarded, highly regarded are words that are that usually appear together. Okay. Well done. You were quick and you were right. So you seem to be ready. Okay. Thank you for this. And let's look at part 2, the open close. Okay. Here that we are talking about a text with gaps, but we don't have any options to choose from. What is the testing focus here? We want to check your awareness and control of grammar, and there is also some focus on vocabulary. So we're going to be looking at pronouns, phrasal verbs, linkers, prepositions, articles, set phrases, modal verbs, okay? So grammar words in a sense, okay, in this part of the exam. In this part 2, for some gaps, you will only need to look at the immediate phrase or sentence. For example, in this case here that I'm showing you from Test and Train, our learning platform, teaching and learning platform. For instance, here you've got a light bulb trying to give you a hint, a clue that some questions test your knowledge of fixed phrases. So here we've got after all. And then also giving you feedback when it comes to work or study. The correct answer is it. We use the phrase when it comes to mean when we consider. Okay, so here we've got examples of situations in which you need to look at the sentence and not really much more, right? Because we are looking at something which is very close to the gap to look for hints and clues. But in some other cases, we may need to read a longer chunk of text, maybe a whole paragraph or the whole text. The approach would be the same, really. Okay, I would really encourage you to read the whole text to get a general idea of what it is about before you go on and look at the gaps. So in this case here, I'm going to give you some seconds to read the sentence. And maybe you can tell me the word we need. Okay, well done, Alexander. Sandra, Teresa, Domingo, Hazel, well done. Okay, yes, however is the correct option here because we are expressing contrast. Fantastic. Okay, moving on now to talk about other parts of the reading and use of English paper, and we're going to continue with some questions coming from you. You seemed quite interested in how to manage your time effectively, how to save time as well, and how to address this part correctly, because at times multiple answers seem correct. So I'm going to answer your questions with another question. I would like you to tell me what you think good readers do. So if I asked you this question, what would you say? What do you think good readers do? Okay, Raul says skim the text. Hajar, underline keywords, underline important words. Skimming and scanning from Carmen. They understand the general idea. Keywords, understand quickly, getting the gist. Okay. Right, so you kind of agree that there needs to be a combination of soft skills, okay? So reading quickly, but also understanding details. It's important also to get some help underlining keywords, especially for those of you who are very visual. Maybe the underlining helps you a lot. Inference from Julian. Okay. Yes, so indeed, I think one of the key aspects of good readers, or one of the key skills that good readers have, is that they can decide on the best approach depending on the task. Okay, so for sure, there will be situations in which we will need to engage in careful reading, okay, which is linear and slow. It's where we are going to understand absolutely everything, the main ideas, the supporting detail. And there are situations in which we need that, okay, when we really need to understand the text. But then there are other situations in which we need to engage in fast reading techniques, such as skimming, okay, reading quickly to get a general idea of what the text is about, scanning, reading quickly to get specific information, a percentage we are interested in, a name, for example, and then search reading, which is a bit more challenging than scanning because it involves locating info on specific topics. Okay, so it's a quick search for information and looking for meaning rather than a specific word. So there will be situations in which we will need to combine fast reading and careful reading. And good readers definitely know how to combine both and when to choose which one. Okay, other aspects that we can find in good readers. They also understand referencing, okay? So they understand the use of pronouns, they understand the use of cohesive devices, devices, yes, and connectors, for example. So they can understand the structure of the text. They also know how to deal with vocabulary. For sure, we will always find words that we don't understand. I think this also happens in our mother tongue, depending on the topic we are reading about. But it's important that we know how to cope with these unknown words. We need to decide if they are vital for the main message or to understand the main message, and if so, we need to try and work out their meaning. Okay, trying to think about the context, the word class, if it has a negative prefix. So trying to use all our resources to try to get an idea of what the word means, and then also being ready to ignore words that are not as important as we think for the main message. Okay, so if we think, okay, that's maybe something that I don't need to know to understand the main message, forget about it. Keep reading, keep on reading, and don't get stressed just because there was a word you didn't understand. Then I also think that good readers can definitely recognize paraphrasing and identify synonyms. Okay, so they can identify different ways in which something is being expressed. So all these aspects characterize good readers, and it's these are different abilities that it's good that we try and develop when we are preparing for our exam, because really they are skills for life. They are skills that we will need when we go to university, when we are working, when we are carrying out our daily life activities. Right, let's look at part 5, which looks like this. It is the text with the different questions and 4 options. And we're going to look at an example taken from Test and Train again. And we are going to see why this one, option B, is the correct option here. So I'm going to give you some time to read the text and the options. Okay, and then I will comment on the different options and the aspect of the text that is guiding us towards the correct answer. Right, so their diversity has been ignored by scientists. It hasn't been ignored, simply it wasn't known, right? So ignore means not to pay attention to something or to pretend that you haven't seen somebody. But this is not the case, right? It was simply that it wasn't known. So this option here is not right, because the technology wasn't available. So the scientists couldn't know that this was there. Then they have been regarded as an outdated area of study. Well, there are different reasons mentioned here, but none of them refer to the idea that fungi has been viewed as outdated in the West. It is true that it had been studied for thousands of years in Asia, but this idea of outdated is not mentioned in the text. They have been considered too inaccessible to examine. Isn't the correct option either. Okay, as we can see here, because it was simply that the technology wasn't there. So the correct option is B, their significance has been insufficiently appreciated, because as you can see, it wasn't seen as their own kingdom of life until the 60s, and they were put in a corner of the plant science department. This is giving us the idea that their significance, their importance wasn't appreciated. So this is an example of the type of parts of the text, the type of reasoning that you have to carry out in order to be able to reach the correct option here. Right, so moving on now to part 8. What do you need to demonstrate in part 8, which is the multiple matching? Well, we are looking at detail, we're looking at opinion, specific information, and attitude. So these are the main testing objectives of this part 8. So what should we bear in mind for this part of the exam? The questions are on the left. So maybe you can look at them before reading the text, and it's a good idea, as you said in the chat box, to underline keywords or concepts. Then it's time for you to read the texts quickly to try to get an idea of what the texts are about, and maybe scan for the ideas mentioned by the keywords, the meaning behind these keywords. You need to bear in mind also that a question may consist of 2 parts. For example, someone being surprised at being confronted by a difficult situation. So 2 different ideas there. Of course, don't choose an option just because there is a word in the question that matches a word in the text. Remember that it's very important to recognize paraphrasing, the use of synonyms. So be ready for that in this part of the exam. Skimming is reading quickly to get a general idea of what the text is about, and scanning is reading quickly as well, but to try to identify specific information. And then once you have located the paragraph or the specific part of the text where you think matches the question, then is where you have to engage in careful reading to ensure that it is exactly the correct option, that there is an accurate match in terms of meaning. So this is part 8, the questions, the text. It can be a longer text, it can be shorter texts. And let's look at the approach I just mentioned. So one of the questions was about keeping your final objective in mind when you are planning to change jobs. Okay, these are the key words that we identified. And we have seeing that maybe consultant D was referring to these. So we read the text and we find that move around, move on are ways of referring to changing jobs. Goal is very close in meaning to final objective. Think about, keep in mind, playing, strategy. Okay, so as you can see, the meaning is there. The words are not the same, so definitely we are looking at expressing the same idea in a different way. Right, so this is what you need to do. Identify keywords in the different options, and then look at the texts quickly to get to identify the one that is closest to the statement, and then read in detail to really make sure that the ideas there are mentioned in the paragraph. One more question coming from you in terms of time. Do we have extra time to fill in the answer sheets? Well, don't worry about these. It will be in the instructions that you see the day of the exam. Here, for instance, you must complete the answer sheets within the time limit. Okay, so for the reading and use of English paper, no extra time. You must complete the answer sheets within the time limit. And you may want to transfer your answers as you are completing the different parts, so you don't have to do it at the end, maybe a bit rushed, so you avoid making mistakes. There was also a question about reading resources, and here I recommend Read and Improve. It is an online platform. It is free. Okay, you can access it through this QR code. You can select a CFR level and you will get a number of texts at that level of ability. So if you're looking for reading practice, please check it out. Also, because it's not only a reading platform, it's also a learning platform. Once you have selected a text, you can hover over it and get information about vocabulary you are not familiar with or you want to learn more about. For instance, emissions here, it tells you the word class, collocations, definitions with examples, and then you can also write a summary of the text and get instant feedback. So really, it is, I feel it's quite useful, and it would be good to find your opinion if you've used it. So let us know. Moving on to listening, and we're going to start this section with a question for you. Okay. So my colleagues will be launching the poll very quickly, but I'm just going to tell you that it's about the aspect, the listening aspect that you find more challenging. Okay, so when you are listening to something in English, when you're doing a listening exam as well, what is the main the aspect that you find more difficult? Is it the pronunciation? Is it maybe keeping attention or paying attention for a long time, knowing what to pay attention to as well? Is it the language? Is it the vocabulary? Is it the grammar? Maybe the topics being discussed? Andrea is asking whether we recommend doing the reading part before the use of English part. Andrea, I think it is something very personal. It's a decision that you have to make based on, I feel, on your preference as well and your experience. The way the exam is designed, the parts become increasingly more complex. Okay, so we start with the parts that maybe we feel that are less complex, and we increase the complexity, so you can progressively get into the most challenging parts. But so in that sense, I may make sense to follow the order of the exam, but I also know that some people prefer to do the parts they feel more comfortable with, so they get them out of the way and they feel more optimistic for the other parts, or they prefer to start with the most difficult parts while they are fresh and leave the easiest parts for the end. So I think it really depends on you. I would recommend that when you do the mock exams, you try out different techniques, different strategies, and you go with the one that you feel most comfortable with. Right, so attention was the most the one that you found was the most challenging, followed by pronunciation, and then language and topics came third with the same percentage. Okay, so and I think this is in line with what you are saying in the chat. Okay, different accents, we will be talking about that. So this is very useful for us. Thank you so much. Okay, and we will talk about these aspects for sure in the next few slides. Okay, so let's think about types of listening. Okay, as we have with reading, there are different listening sub-skills. We are listening for the main points. We are listening to follow an argument. We are listening for detail. We want to understand opinion. We want to infer meaning. So there are different abilities, different aspects of a listening that we need to pay attention to. So in the listening, there are 4 parts, different task types, with different test objectives. Okay, so you can see that there is a wide range of testing objectives in line with what is expected at C1 level. If you want to find out more, please check this QR code. The duration of this paper is 40 minutes, and this includes 5 minutes to transfer your answers. Okay, so here it is included within the 40 minutes. And you also had a lot of questions about the listening paper, and I wanted to mention these about the top tips and also the main challenges, the main problems that you find, or that we think you may find in the listening section. This is what I will try to answer in the next few slides. So part 1, the multiple choice. How should we approach this part of the exam? Read through the questions before you listen, so you know, kind of start thinking about what you are going to listen to, and then listen to the whole extract carefully before answering. Also bear in mind that the 2 questions in the extract may not be in sequence. So maybe you will find the answer to question 2 to the second question in the extract before the answer to the first question. Try not to just guide yourself by just because I've heard the words, the exact words, I'm going to choose this option, because remember, paraphrasing is very important, and recognizing paraphrasing as well. And then bear in mind aspects such as the speaker's purpose, the attitudes and the opinions, the gist of an argument, and then also agreement and disagreement. This is a lot, right? What do we mean? Let's look at an example. Okay, So here I'm going to give you a few seconds to read the script and to look at the options. I have already circled the main parts of the options here. Okay, so option A, demanding academic year, new working environment, and future job prospects. And the correct option is B. Okay, well done. Because it hasn't been a demanding academic year, it has been fairly stress-free year. He doesn't want to enhance his future prospects now, job prospects now, because he feels that he can do that later. But he really wants to experience a new working environment. Okay, so a complete change of seeing, getting a fresh perspective by being part of a different team and seeing how they operate. Okay, so B is the correct option. So you can see that all three options are mentioned, so you need to be careful when choosing the correct option. Part 2. How should we approach it? Read the task to try to predict or be ready for what you are going to listen. In this part of the exam, we are not asking you to paraphrase, so write what you hear. Don't repeat information that is already on the page. Okay, look at what comes before and after the gap and make sure you're not repeating information. And make sure that what you write is correct considering the rest of the sentence. Okay, grammatically correct. You're not repeating information, as I say. Aspects to bear in mind for part 2. Remember that what is written on the text is not what you are going to hear. Okay, so the text is not exactly what you will hear, but you need to write exactly what you hear. You need to track text and audio. Okay, I think this was mentioned in the chat as one of the challenges. This is challenging. I'm not going to say that it isn't, but it's a matter of practice and trying to make the most of the time that you have before the recording starts. Remember that most questions will focus on concrete pieces of information, for example, nouns, and that you are usually looking for single words or very short noun word groups. Again, this is a lot. What do we mean? Okay, so in the time that you've got before the recording starts, read the instructions, read the text to get a general idea of what it will be about. This will help you be more alert, maybe. So when you hear words, you identify them. Because there is a question coming, like, even if it's a word that I know, I find it difficult to understand it in the listening. Well, maybe because you are not expecting it, but if you read the text and you get into the topic, then it will be easier for you to identify the words that you hear. So here we've got special interest. Which in the issue of that led him to choose his degree subject. Special interest, his degree subject. I've always wondered, in particular, and that was really the key factor in influencing my choice of degree subject. So the correct option is climate change here. Then a change that is marking us that we are ready to move on to the next gap. I will be reluctant to work after graduation, find a job. The last of those seems less appealing because I'm very committed to nature conservation due to his interest in conservation. So oil here is the correct answer. So as you can see in the text, the words are not exactly what you will hear, but what you write is exactly what you hear. So you really need to be ready to recognize paraphrasing, but you are not asked to paraphrase. And then part 4, key aspects to bear in mind in this part of the exam. 5 different speakers. There is a thematic link. In this case, people are talking about changing their jobs. There are 2 parallel multiple matching tasks. In task 1, the focus is the reason for changing jobs. And in task 2, the focus is on the feelings about their new job. And the correct option should be chosen from a list of 8. Okay, so how to approach the task? Well, some people prefer to, in the first time they listen, focus on task 1, and then in the second time, focus on task 2. Other people prefer to read the different options and then try to do both at the same time, and then have the option of listening again in case there are answers that they didn't pick. So really, again, it comes down to your personal preference and the approach that you find works best for you. So summing up, I think I've given you more than 5 tips for the listening test, but in any case, I wanted to summarize them here. Make good use, take advantage of the silent times. I remember when I was a teacher and I saw my students staring at the ceiling while they were waiting for the recording to start, and it was like, no, you're wasting your time. Please use that time to look at the options, look at the questions, look at the text, try to predict the content of the recording, try to imagine what the text will be about, to spot keywords, to check that you are ready for the next question. Then also make the best use of the second listening. Make sure that the answers that you given are right. Try to make sure you haven't forgotten any answers, and listen for different questions. Okay, so also be alert and make sure that you don't leave anything behind. If there are problems, try to identify cues, try to identify hints that are going to guide you in the right direction. Breathe, okay? And if you really see that you can find the answer, make sure you write something and then move on, okay? Don't try to spend too long there, because otherwise you may run out of time. And then, as I said, the key is to process meaning and not just words. Okay, we want to test your ability to recognize paraphrasing, to use paraphrasing in different in other papers as well. So make sure you are ready to understand synonyms and to identify different ways of expressing the same idea. And the 5th tip would be find out what works for you. Okay, do that before exam day. And don't try out new things on the day of the exam. Just make sure you know your strategy, that you know yourself well as a learner and as a candidate, as a test taker, and make sure you know what strategy you feel most comfortable with. Resources to develop listening skills. I saw a question about how to prepare for the exam bit by bit and little by little. Well, I think this is a good strategy. Okay, try to do a bit or study a bit, work a bit as regularly as possible. Maybe 10 minutes listening to the news, reading the newspaper, will make more of a difference that maybe like spending 5 hours studying vocabulary and then spending like a week without doing anything. So try to be as constant as possible and make sure you are, especially with listening and reading, devoting some time on a regular basis. And at C1, there are so many resources that you can use. You can use learning material. You can also use authentic material to make sure you are familiar also with different accents. And accents is a big concern for you. That was obvious in the poll and in your questions. So try to, as I said before, read the instructions, read the options, so you can try to activate your knowledge about the topic, and you can predict the words that you will hear, and then make sure you are familiar with different types of accents, okay, which are part of English. Okay, English is spoken by a very wide range of people, native and non-native. In the exams, we will have native speakers, but with different accents, and it's important that you have had the opportunity to become familiar with them. So reference to accent only comes at C1 of the Common European Framework. If you want to check the Common European Framework, you've got the link here. So there will be, yes, accents that are maybe a bit less familiar. In that case, don't worry, you're going to listen twice, okay, in case you need to confirm some details. So you will be encountering different accents in the C1 advanced exam. The key is previous practice, and also the fact that you know that you have the opportunity to listen twice. So I'm about to finish. I'm conscious of time. And we're just going to go through a few resources. Test and Train, our teaching and learning platform. If you want exam practice, please check it out. Also, if you want to practice language and you want to make sure that you are practicing it at the right level, check our in-use products, grammar in use, vocabulary in use, which includes theory and guided practice. So you feel comfortable with the new vocabulary and the new language, the new grammar that you are learning before maybe trying to incorporate it to your speaking and your writing practice. If you want to continue getting ideas about how to develop your listening skills and your reading skills, check out these guides for listening and for reading, which are free and are available on our website. Then also, please visit this section of our website, C1 Advanced Preparation. You've got exam essentials, teacher essentials, and learner essentials with all the information that you will need, as well as resources like sample papers, checklists for writing, lesson plans. So really a wealth of resources available for you for free. If you've got special requirements, Please also visit our website. We've got specific section where you can find what we can offer, but also please let your exam center know so they can advise on the best options for you. Okay, this is general information of what is available, but it's very important that you let your exam center know so they can be ready to give you the best adaptation possible. Then another question that you asked me was about the time that you need to prepare for the exam. I have gathered here some references to different authors and also to the research I carried out. And as you can see, there is a wide range of time here because it really depends. It depends on your context. It depends on your level, your previous level, the level that you want to achieve, how long you can devote to the learning process outside the class if you are attending a course. So really, there is a lot to take into account, but hopefully this will give you an idea. The writing has to be written with pen. Yes, yes, indeed, Immaculada. Questions about exam day, how to complete the exam, how much time do you get for the exam, can you go to the toilet, can you drink water? Questions that we all have and that we all want to get answered. Please check out the information for candidates booklets. I'm going to share the link in a minute. But here you can find all the information, okay? Pens for the writing paper, the C1 Advanced writing paper, pencil for the rest of the papers, except for speaking, of course. You can have a clear plastic bottle of water with you. You can go to the toilet during the breaks. During the papers, if it's a must, except for the listening has to be an emergency. But please remember that the time that you take going to a toilet is time that you are losing, okay, that you will not be able to use for the exam. The information is included here in the booklet for candidates. This is the QR code. And please join me in the next session that is on next Thursday for writing and speaking. And if you are taking C2 proficiency or know someone who is taking this exam, ask them to register for the 20th of March with David. And this is the QR code to access your handouts. I don't think it can be glass. The bottle of water cannot be made of glass. It has to be made of plastic in case it breaks, or has to be made of plastic, I think. And I'm going to go very quickly to your questions. Carla, you are asking about the transformations part. Is it the keyword transformation? Is it part 4? For part 4, maybe you want to watch the recording of B2 because I think the approach is very similar, but basically read the first sentence, read the second sentence, make sure that you are not repeating any information that is already included in the second sentence. Make sure you are not changing the keywords. And use the number of words that you've got within the range. Marina, there haven't been any changes in the number of parts in the reading exercises, okay? So I think the exam was updated in 2015, and since then there haven't been any changes. But in any case, check out the handbook for teachers. All the information is there. Always, there is a question about not knowing the answer and leaving that question blank. Please don't do that. Okay, always try to give an answer. You don't lose points, okay, for incorrect answers. So just like try to answer as many questions as possible. Nancy is asking about specific tips for very young students preparing for C1. I think, if they are preparing for C1, they have developed the language skills. So maybe it's a matter of confidence, being familiar with the exam, knowing what to expect, but having the confidence that they have the language resources to face the exam and approach it, dealing with it successfully. In any case, check out our handbook for teachers, because there are a lot of tips and ways in which they may want to approach the different activities, the different tasks. There are breaks, Kiara, during the different papers. So you can get something to eat, you can go to a toilet, you can get some fresh air. So yes, there will be breaks, but the exam center will be able to give you more information about the different breaks and when they will happen. The speaking can happen on a different day or can happen on the same day. It's something that you need to check with your exam center. Nancy, for part 2, I assume for the listening, if it's an incomplete answer, in some cases there is an adjective and a noun, and the adjective is not crucial for the meaning, so in that case it wouldn't be a problem. But if the word that they are missing is important word, the noun, for example, then it wouldn't be acceptable. Isabel, part 1 of the listening and the questions are in order. There are different extracts, and within the extract, the answers don't necessarily come in the same order as you see the questions. Okay, so that's something that you need to bear in mind. Cristina, that's exactly what I meant by answering the 2 questions. The answers to the 2 questions may not be in sequence. Okay, so for that extract where you get the 2 questions, maybe you will find the answer to the second question before the answer to the first question. Immaculada, I feel that at this level, the spelling of the word needs to be accurate. Advice for someone who is starting to prepare by themselves, plans to take a 3-month course in September. I think try to do some practice, reading and listening practice every day. Become familiar with with the exam format, so you know what to expect. Also, for the level and the type of grammar that you need, the type of skills that you need to develop, and work on it little by little. So you can have a good basis, good foundations before you start the course. Yes, accents, maybe American English, British English, Scottish, Irish, Australian. So it really depends. Adriana, if you felt comfortable with B2, then and you got a high score, maybe preparing for C1 isn't that much of a difference. I feel that the levels are like a pyramid, and but upside down, so inverted pyramid. So when you reach to the highest levels, it takes a bit longer to move from one level to the other. But if you felt comfortable with B2, it means that maybe you are strong at B2, so maybe you need less time to prepare for C1, but maybe go on and try a mock C1 exam and see what it feels like. Nancy, I don't think there will be changes in the exams in the near future, at least in the ones that were updated quite recently. Mock exams are available on our website. So check our website with the QR codes we've given you, and yeah, have a go. Okay, I see that some people want to leave. They are hungry. They need to leave for lessons and things like that. So it's 17 minutes, 18 minutes past 7. So I think it's time to go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and joining us. Thank you so much to my colleagues for answering so many questions, and thank you so much to all attendees for being so interactive and making me feel that I'm not alone, that I'm with all of them. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you on Thursday. Thank you. Bye.